September, October, with the stock market collapsing. I manage a mutual fund in Milwaukee, and with all the forced acquisitions of banks, some of our strategic relationships were turned around. So that as a backdrop, let's move towards November when I start getting headaches. For the most part, people thought it was the bear market booga-boogas, of all the stress from the past few months. And they'd come and go, and occasionally I'd wake up, in the middle of the night sweating, and just didn't think anything of it. Just thought it was a stress. In December, my oldest brother in Boston had a cardiac arrest, and that was like a week before Christmas, and that was kind of my first real encounter in a hospital. I came back from Boston in the middle of January, only to find out that my best friend in Milwaukee was dying of cancer. And so I took time off to take care of him, take him to his colonoscopies and endoscopy and little surgery, and just be there. And it was at that time that I said, hey, you can't just go to this urgent center for treatment. I'm taking to Mayo Clinic. My compliance officer in our office had been to Mayo before, and couldn't say enough about the experience he had here. But Dr. Bible, one, just sitting with them, they kind of hit it off in terms of, he cared. He said he'd be like, a quarterback, prime, whatever he needed, right? He gave him some things that he could do, changed his regimen around, and diet and stuff, so that he could spend some time with his kids. A few weeks later, my back was really starting to bother me, and I went and got an X-ray, and the doctor said that the muscles were all strained, and that's where you carry stress, and I should do PT. Well, I went through the first week of PT, and they were trying to get me to move my head back and forth and up and down. And the second week, I started to feel tingling in my fingers and feet. It was the last week in February where the lesion showed up in my cord. At the time, I said to call Dr. Bible, hey, do you remember me? And it's like, oh yeah, I remember you guys. Why don't you have the slides sent up here, and we'll take a look at them. And so we did that, and he didn't want to wait until the next appointment on April 9th, and he said, why don't you come up here on April 2nd? I was sent over to St. Mary's and for a series of tests, and within like 3 days they had this thing nailed. I knew I was at the right spot, because of the experience with Bob, and and just what I experienced just being here. But if I go back to Bob for a second, the day that he passed away, I was on that plane coming here, and the day before I had to deliver the eulogy, I got the best possible diagnosis. So I think he was here the whole time with me.